Welcome to another edition of Global Tax Talk. I'm Ege Berber. In this episode, we would like to focus on the impact that tax policy changes are having on tax functions around the world. The workload of many multinational tax teams has increased dramatically. Reporting burdens are rising, particularly due to Pillar 2, driving the need for tax to take a fresh look at its core operating model and capabilities. Real-time reporting, such as e-invoicing, is also a growing trend, along with transparency initiatives that include public country-by-country reporting. All while, C-suites are wanting more insights from tax on strategic initiatives such as ESG and sustainability. At the same time, attracting and retaining the right talent remains a critical goal for many tax functions. This, however, is getting increasingly difficult given the skills shortage we are seeing in the workplace. And solely using the traditional approach of hiring more staff to address these challenges may no longer be feasible. So how are tax functions transforming to meet the volume of change head-on? Will Morris recently sat down with two other PwC leaders, Ivers and Norah Seddon, in Sydney to discuss this question. Here's an excerpt of their discussion.
So, Derek, let's shift gears a bit and talk about how tax is actually transforming to respond to these challenges. And so we're seeing this wide spectrum of change, which is occurring, but there do seem to be some common themes. So building trusting and reliable data, as you were talking about already, that infrastructure is beginning to take center stage. That's the foundation for all tax processes. So while linking with the broader finance transformation efforts such as ERP, and all of those things, it's not a perfect solution. In fact, it's more complicated than that. So again, what are leading tax functions doing to tackle these issues? And does that, looking across a very broad region that we're in, does that differ from in parts of the region?
I think, the companies that are doing this well are kind of taking a step back and thinking about how they want to construct or reconstruct kind of how they approach tax and how they build their function. So that might range from thinking through, as Norah said, well, what do we want our people doing? What's the core activities, skills, knowledge that we want to retain within the tax function? What's non-core and can be dealt with through shared service centers or outsourced providers? What are the things where we need to invest in data and technology around, and what are our options for that? Is it hooking into some of those finance transformation efforts and ERP projects? We see, most companies can't solve 100% of their tax data challenges on the ERP. So what are their options kind of just off ERP but connected? Or do you use outsourced providers and leverage kind of the investment that they're making at scale on technologies, and you kind of get access to technology through the outsourced provider service arrangement? So, we see, leading tax functions thinking that through from a functional perspective, bringing a regional perspective or both, and kind of reconstructing kind of the operating model for the tax function and thinking about how they want that to look moving forward to kind of meet their goals.
But Norah, the point that you already made about actually the challenges that, recruiting talent and retaining them, can, how formidable it can be. As companies can't hire their way out of it, there's this classic issue of doing more with less, or at least, more with the same. And again, how are companies approaching this, and what can they do to sort of deal with it? And also, again, does this differ by territory depending on what the talent pool looks like?
So if I can take off from where Derek was talking about with the operating model. Sure. I think leading companies that I see actually stand back and think about what they want their global model to be. Right. And that's kind of an umbrella, but then it's actually regionalized or taken down to a territory level. So to give you an example, a lot of the regulators in Asia Pacific are actually going through their own transformation. So some are much more data, much more tech-enabled, much more real-time reporting, whereas others are still on the journey. Yep. So when we're looking at talent, actually having that overview from an operating model perspective, so everyone knows where ultimately we'd like every territory or every country to be, but then bringing it down to individual territories And I think the skills do actually have to be within the territory. Right. Tax is still a very territory specific, putting pillar 2 to one side. But a lot of, so for example, taxes, it's income taxes, it's indirect taxes, it's employment taxes. It actually, in many countries, it's pensions and that go through the same tax systems. So, but having that overview that actually says this is the target operating model that we want everywhere, and then allowing each of the territories to go on a journey that reflects the regulator, reflects where the business is at, I think is a really key point when you're then looking at, well, what talent do I need? So to give you an example, with ERPs in Australia, there is a lot of real-time reporting, particularly around payrolls. You need people who understand that technology and how things fit together. And they don't necessarily have to be tax people. So that actually expands the skill pool you can go to. Some of them are system and process people. So maybe if you were looking at something in Australia, you have a slightly different mix in your tax function. Or some companies actually have a central team with those skills and the tax function uses them as needed. In other countries, it is looking at training your own. A lot more graduate programs, even though you'd like to go into the market to actually get people from the market, there is an acceptance that you actually have to do that when you can, but also train your own.
To listen to Will, Derek, and Norah's entire discussion about the challenges they are seeing for tax, how leading tax functions are transforming, as well as some no-regret actions for companies to consider, please see the link in the description of this video. And for more information, be sure to listen to Will Morris every week for 60 seconds on key global tax policy insights for the coming week. We'll be back soon with another episode of Global Tax Talk. Thanks for tuning in so you can stay global tax ready.